Hello, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to be making a special kind of cookies called meringues. They're very light and fluffy. It's mostly just egg whites and sugar. And we're going to be using, obviously, our eggs. We need to separate them to get just the whites. So I'll show you how to do that. And regular granulated sugar. I did try this a couple days ago using powdered sugar instead, and it didn't work quite as well, so I would definitely stick with the granulated sugar. It's just your regular plain old sugar. We also need some cream of tartar. And we need, if you choose, some extract. I prefer almond, but I forgot to bring mine, and here at the library we have vanilla. So I'm going to use vanilla extract. And I like to make my meringues be pink, so I'm going to use a few drops of red food coloring. You can make it any color you want or leave them white. Then you can mix in, this recipe calls for mini chocolate chips, so I have some of those. I also have some regular size. I'm going to try some of those too. Usually when I'm at home, I like to make a version that has dried cherries. That's also very good. But today we're going to be using the chocolate version. Alright, let's move this down so you can see the egg action here. Okay. So it calls for 3 egg whites. We're going to be separating our eggs. So we're going to be putting the whites in this bowl, and we're going to be putting the yolks, which we don't need, in this to save for later. Usually I like to use a large spoon when I'm separating eggs. They also sell a special tool that's called an egg separator. It looks like kind of like a slotted spoon type thing. I don't have one. And I couldn't find a large spoon here, so I'm going to use the bowl of this ice cream scoop to separate. Alright. I tap it kind of like 2/3 of the way towards the top because I want to pull off the top like a little lid. That was messier than expected. Alright, now you can already see that the whites are coming out. And I'm going to carefully pour the yolk into the bowl of my spoon, aka ice cream scoop. Alright, and you can see there are yolks in there. There's also some whites that are still in there, so I'm just going to carefully put my finger here to stop the yolk from popping out and just let the rest of those whites pour out. They're kind of sticky, so sometimes you actually have to grab the white and pull it. Alright. There's our yolk. Once I dumped it in there, it broke. If it breaks while you're separating it and you get any yolk at all in your white, you have to start over. Because if you get any yolks in this, it's going to mess it up. You want only the whites for this recipe. Sorry, I'm left-handed, so let me just try and do this other hand so you can actually see. There we go. There, that went the last of the white. Okay, I just washed my hands since I was touching raw eggs. We now have our egg whites in here. So now we have to add in our sugar. This calls for 1 cup of sugar scant. So scant means that it's not quite a whole cup. So unlike how I usually measure sugar, where you level the top off nice and straight, in this case we're just going to make it so, alright, so you can see it's not quite full. It's a scant cup of sugar. So that's what we want. This is actually 1/2 cup. So I'm going to do 2 cups like this, since we need a whole cup. All right, and there's another scant cup. Next, we need our cream of tartar. It's calling for a 1/4 teaspoon. All right, so here's our 1/4 teaspoon. It's gonna say TSP, that means teaspoon. If it says TBSP, that's a tablespoon, that's different. So we want a 1/4 teaspoon. Now the cream of tartar, we do want to level it off, so I'm gonna use the stem of this one to level this one. All right. And finally, it's calling for 1 teaspoon of your vanilla extract, or whatever flavor you choose to use. If you've never tried almond extract in your baking, I would definitely recommend it. I almost always substitute it now where recipes call for vanilla. It's just really good and just different from the usual flavor. But vanilla will be good too. All right. Now, finally, we need to whip this until it is stiff. Let's set these aside. By the way, this makes really good omelets later, or scrambled eggs later on. Okay, now this is definitely a recipe where it's useful to have an electric mixer because otherwise this is going to take you forever. So, let's get started here. I'm making sure to kind of go up along the edges of the bowl like you saw me doing to make sure I'm getting all the sugar that might be stuck on the edges. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. That is not long enough, but I just want to show you at least the progress here. So you can see that it is getting a lot thicker. However, it's still runny, and when I lift the beaters up, you can see a little peak forming. The peak immediately collapses and folds back down. See? There's the peak and it collapses. We want to wait till the peak stays standing up. That's how stiff this needs to be. So we're going to beat a little while longer. Okay, you can see it's been, I think, about 5 more minutes, and the little mountain peaks are now sticking up, and they pretty much stay sticking up. So I'm going to go a little longer to try and get it just a little bit stiffer. See there? But I think we're almost there. Alright, I think we're just going to go for it. So I did forget to put my coloring in. I didn't forget at first, but I do like to put it in once it's almost done. But then I forgot to put it in when it was almost done. So we're just going to put in maybe like 2 or 3 drops. That's enough for how I want it to look. So look, this is the fun part. Okay, now I'm just taking my spatula and I'm getting off every last bit of this if I can, because we don't want to waste any. If you want to try licking these, it is at your own risk because it does have raw egg in it, so just a warning there. I don't like to lick anything that has raw egg, so I'm just going to get off as much as I can and put it in the sink. Alright, now you can see how pretty this looks. Our next step is if you want to do a mix-in like the dried cherries that I like to do, or the chocolate chips that we're going to do today. Now we have to fold them in. So you see how nice and lovely and fluffy this is. We don't want to do regular stirring and mixing because that's going to make it get flat. It's going to take out all the air that we just took all that time and effort to get into it. So that's why we don't stir them in and mix them in, and we fold them in. So I'm going to show you what folding is. Alright, first let's put these in. It's calling for 1 cup. We're just going to eyeball it here. Yeah. Okay, alright, so when you're folding, you're going to go around the bowl halfway and then cut through the middle. Then you're going to pick up that half that you just went around and fold it over. Okay, now we're going to go around, sorry, this is hard to do one-handed, the side of the bowl. Now we're going to pick up and flip over. Do that a couple more times. We're going to go around, just scrape our spatula around the edge of the bowl. Cut through the middle. Pick up half of it that we just cut and flip over. So you see that's getting them mixed in but without really mixing. So it's going to keep our mixture fluffy. Just going to do that a couple more times. I'll try and show you it this way instead. Around, cut through the middle, and flip over. Alright, I think those are pretty well mixed in now. So then your next step is that you're going to take 2 baking sheets, which I do not have here because we do not have an oven here, but you're going to take 2 baking sheets. It's those rectangular metal trays, and you're going to put some parchment paper on them. Parchment paper, you can find that in the same aisle as the tin foil and the plastic wrap and all that stuff. Usually it's kind of on the bottom. So look for parchment paper. It comes in a long skinny box just like tin foil or wax paper or whatever. But don't buy wax paper, it's going to melt in your oven. Don't get them mixed up. Look for parchment paper. It's especially for baking. It just helps your cookies turn out extra nice. It helps the heat distribute better. And it also keeps your baking sheet clean because you can just crinkle up the parchment paper when you're done and throw it out without getting a bunch of gunk on your sheet. Alright, one more thing I wanted to tell you that I forgot is the cream of tartar. It's kind of an unusual ingredient, but if you're looking for this, it's in the baking aisle. So like the aisle that has the chocolate chips and the flour and cake mix and food coloring and all that. This will be in that same aisle, probably close to the food coloring and the flavorings. Alright, so now our recipe tells us that we're going to drop this mixture by the teaspoon onto a baking sheet. So basically I usually just take a regular spoon and take about this much. That's not literally a teaspoon in this case. They're not talking about this because that's obviously way too tiny for a cookie. They're talking about the casual use of the term teaspoon, which is just a spoon. So in case you get confused by that. So it's about this much, and you're just going to drop this onto your cookie sheet. Put them a few, see how sticky it is? You're going to drop that onto your cookie sheet. Blop. And space them about 2 or 3 inches apart on your cookie sheet. Just like with normal cookies. Alright, and then you're going to put them in your oven. And it's going to be a 350 degree oven. Now this is the interesting part. So you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Wait till it gets to that temperature. Then you're going to put your baking sheet with all your little meringues spaced out on it. You're going to slide your cookie sheets into your oven. Okay, then you're going to turn your oven off. Don't open the door and just let them in there overnight or for 8 hours. Isn't that cool? So you actually don't leave the oven on and bake them like with normal cookies. You just bring it up to 350 degrees, put your cookie sheets in, and just leave them in there overnight with the oven off. Then in the morning when you open it, they're going to be all done. Here's what they look like when they're done. So when you open your oven in the morning, this is what you'll see. See how pretty they are? They're very light, and if you tap it You can feel and hear how hollow it is. They're just very light and fluffy and very fun to eat and to give. So I hope you enjoyed learning about how to make meringues. I'll have the recipe down below in the description. And have a good week. See you next time in the kitchen. Bye. Hello, and now we're just going to do a little bonus section on cleaning off your mixer. So this part of the mixer that you see here, you don't want to get this wet because you can damage the electric part inside, but you can get a washcloth or paper towel in this case and just wipe it off if you get any schmutz on there or any flour dust or whatever. Alright, that's done. Now you also have to wash off your beaters. These obviously you can get wet. You can put them in a bowl to soak like I did to get the whatever batter you were using off. And this is actually kind of fun. The pink stuff floats to the top when you let your dirty materials soak in there. Alright, so just rinse them off. You don't want to let these sit out for a long time dirty because they will get rusty. If you put them in the dishwasher and then it's a couple days until you actually start the washer, they can start to get rusty. So it's better to just hand wash them right away. Rinse them off really well because you don't want your next thing that you make to taste like soap. And there you go. Alright, have a great week. See you next time in the kitchen. Bye!